Today in the Cult of Cinema, we're going to be looking at a excellent film on not just film editing, but the psychology of film editing and the way we perceive things. The name of the movie is called The Cinema Within, and it's an interesting watch. So let's start with that. Editing in cinema is something that we often take for granted and maybe don't think about in ways that we should. But it's not a magic trick, but it's absolutely fascinating. And this film here dives into not just the film editing as a process itself, which is wonderful there, and we get some wonderful conversation with some of the greatest minds of all time when it comes to this. But it deals a lot with the whole psychology about why editing works. See, it starts off with the story talking about the fact that there's this scene that people saw with a train coming towards the screen, and the train coming towards the screen on the in the theater at the time, then cuts to passengers getting off in a different area altogether. Now, the thing is that in and of itself could have killed it right there, because if people weren't able to perceive that cut in their minds, it would work much in the way that motion sickness works, in that we probably wouldn't be able to grasp it, and people would have just like some people did when they saw the Blair Witch Project, couldn't grasp the concept, and people would have puked, and that would have been it for cinema. It wouldn't have gone any farther than that. The Cinema Within is an absolutely fascinating documentary that goes in a way that I really didn't expect it to. I'll be honest, I went in a bit thinking this was going to be a bit more dry and a bit more just base film school lecture than it was. See, this wasn't just a documentary talking about, hey, this is editing, this is why editing's important. It went beyond that. It's talked about cognitive theory. It recreated lectures by George Murch, a amazing film editor who got his start. His very first film was The Conversation, starring Gene Hackman. So if you've ever seen that film, that's a pretty amazing start, and he went even farther and up from there. But one of the things about this that I found like extremely interesting was the way that they themselves presented the film. How a documentary is shot and how we perceive and see it is a very important part of it. It's an important part in general. If you watched that opening kind of tag right after the credits, then you're going to be one of two type of people. One, you're going to notice the misspelling of a specific word intentionally to see if you'll catch it. And that's going to bother the hell out of you. Or you're the type of person that just looks at the words on the screen and you fix it yourself within your head. I think all of us are a bit of both. See, when it comes to the Cinema Within, I find it extremely interesting in the way that they decided to edit the film, because for me, there was a couple places where I wasn't sure if the editing was working for me in the film about editing. But eventually, as I go on through and as I'm watching this film, and I'm seeing how things are going, things start to click into place, and choices that were made that I weren't sure about initially tend to make sense. There's a fascinating portion of this film here where they go to a place in Turkey. I do not remember the name of the place. I do apologize. But they go there because a study's done there and people are shown films. People that have never seen TV, have never seen films of any type before. And the automatic thought is that once they see it, they'll automatically understand it. Their mind will fill in those blanks when it goes from a cutaway or a 180 shot that it's going to do it for. See, one of the big things behind editing, one of the most quoted things when it comes to editing, is that the edit is in the blink of the human eye, and that's how successful editing is done. What they weren't prepared for was what the reaction they actually got was, and I don't know how much of that I want to give away because this documentary is fascinating and in ways that I hadn't expected to be and in ways that I hadn't thought about before. I've worked behind and front of a camera a lot, and on the average week, there are days of my life that are spent editing. Um, and this brought new things to me as a viewer that excited me, and as somebody, there's things that I never thought about that that I now do. There are interesting aspects of this for the cinephile. There are things about this that you don't even have to like film for. You, it's going to interest you on a psychological level. It's going to interest you on a cinematic level. It's going to interest you on a human level. That's the key part of this documentary, is that it's not within a certain box frame where, okay, I'm going to like this because I'm going to like Crystal Lake Memories because I like Friday the 13th. I'm going to like a documentary on film noir because I love cinema and I'm a massive film noir fan. No, this isn't going that way. This is going in a way that has a much broader reach and a broader appeal. There are portions of the film where you could fall into the line of thinking that this is going to be a dry film school type of documentary. But the twists and turns that this film has and the kind of change in the narrative and expectations are what really makes this fascinating. It is definitely one that is worth watch. You will love it if you love film. You will probably maybe even contemplate, consider, and maybe even debate uh, with others you watch with when it comes to how well styles of editing work. Uh, whether, a more complex editing style or a very straightforward one, or maybe a bit of a mix in between. But that won't be your major thing that you're getting out of this film. Not unless you're a super film geek like me, then then that's going to be something probably going to talk about anyway. No, the crux for this film for me come in two specific spots, and I did highlight them earlier on, so I'm just going to cursively go over them, and I'm not going to give anything away. In Murch's um, conversation on film editing, that is utterly fascinating, and to see that represented in portions is really, really interesting. And the twist and the change is when we get to see how that experiment goes in Turkey, when people are seen and shown films in cinema for the very first time. And with that, I think that's all that I really want to give away, except for whether I recommend this film or not and who I would recommend this film to. I do think that this film has a broad range. And for that, I'd say this film isn't just for the film student or the psychology major. It bridges both gaps of that. I do think that this film can work for pretty much anybody that has any interest at all in watching a really well done documentary that may go in places and in directions that you initially won't think that it does. You know, like a really good edited piece. Hitchcock once said that one of the greatest ways to like show tension isn't isn't like having like two people go sit down at a table and have a bomb explode. Like you get that shock for 1 second. But if you go down there and you see people sit down at a table and then you cut to a bomb underneath the table with the timer, and you can see the timer on the bomb as it's ticking down, and it's going back to the conversation with the people, and it's going back to the timer, and the tension is building and building. Good editing, great editing, can take an okay scene or a good scene and make it over time a masterpiece. And this documentary, watched over this time, I think it's like 90 minutes, um, is something that I think you'll enjoy definitely much more than this review, but hopefully you do enjoy this review. The film Cinema Within is highly recommended. I think you'll get a lot of fun out of it, you'll enjoy it, and come away with hopefully just a little bit to think about. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've seen The Cinema Within, if you're going to check it out, if I've intrigued you at all, or you need a little bit more, uh, push towards going to see it. If so, then let me just say it's a really great documentary, and I do strongly recommend it. And I am so trying to dance around not giving away portions of this, because I know that there are reviews out there that will talk about the experiment and what happened. But I really want you to discover that on your own. And that's how I am going to edit this review, in a cautious way, so that hopefully you get as much enjoyment out of it as possible and not just one big bang. Oh God. Oh, subscription sloth here. Just want to remind you that I know in the summertime especially it can be super warm and lazy. But if you're liking this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to go that step further and join the Patreon, there's a link for that down below. You can super sticker, super chat, or donate. But above all, just lie back and enjoy the video, because that's what I'm going to do. So I use a pretty rudimentary editing trick at the beginning of the video in order to just sort of set the mood for the review going forward. And let me know if you enjoyed that, and if you like little aspects of that there. Would you prefer the review just to be straightforward and not go into any of the trickery per se? I did when I was young, used to study like very young, like magic. And as I got older and I started to watch films, like really study films, not just like to watch them, but actually to study films itself. I remember like the early books on magic that I'd had, and speaking about like misdirection and aspects, and I used to see parallels in certain ways that you learn and practice like certain magic tricks, and the way that that certain forms of like of cinema was done with its editing, with its styles, whether it was is like the is the crosscut or the way that the score is used to heighten the feel and intensity of something. Anyway, just a little extra on the end if you want to watch, and let me know what you think. See you soon, right here in the Call to Cinema. Also, like, share, subscribe, and if you want to go that extra step farther, become a member, join our Patreon, and let me know what it is that you want to see in the membership levels and what you would like to see if you're our patron.